Um, I suffer from imposter syndrome. I'm not going to tell you that I'm just so confident in myself that I never feel like I'm not supposed to be in this room. Recently, I went through layoffs. I was laid off. I thought I had my dream job. I was so like, I had just finally got more confident in that job, and then I got laid off. And that really made me feel inadequate. Like, what did I do wrong? Like, was it my performance? Knowing that it wasn't my performance, knowing that I was one of the top rated people on my team, but it messed with me so much because I'm like, well, maybe I'm not good enough. Maybe I don't, I don't know, I don't deserve to work in these type of roles. And then getting my new role, I went through it again. I was like, well, I don't know. Like, should I be here? It's not, I wish I could tell you that it goes away, but what's helping me to get through having this imposter syndrome is realizing that I deserve to be here. The same way Michelle Obama said, don't let anybody make you feel like you don't matter. You're not supposed to be here. I've worked very hard. I have the experience. I have all the different things that I need, the tools that I need to succeed in this role. And anything I don't feel confident in, that's why I'm always really big on trying to educate myself and just add more to my repertoire, because nobody can take your knowledge away from you. Nobody can take away the things that you've learned, no matter what's happened to you. So for me, that's what helps me to get through those days or those weeks or whenever I'm feeling like I don't deserve to be here. And that's just me being real.
And for me, like, growing up in a very traditional Chinese household, yes, the stereotype of Asians have to get straight A's, it was true in my family as well. So growing up, I'm very competitive in nature, and I'm a perfectionist, or I aim to be. And in the workplace, sometimes I hold myself in such a high bar that, if I'm not communicating with my leadership, I do have imposter syndrome myself. Like, I'm constantly doubting, am I doing enough? Am I adding value? How am I being measured with my peers? Am I performing at the level that my management is happy about? And so I find the best way to cope with imposter syndrome is communication. Like, ask for feedback. Ask feedback from your peers, from your leadership, right? And ask for, like, or be clear on what are the measure of success that I am being measured on, whether it be qualitative or quantitative. And then once you're able to list out in bullet points what it is that the company or your boss are measuring you on, then you can check yourself off, right? Like, oh, shoot, like, if in this quarter, I'm expected to pump out 30 projects, enhance 4 different processes, I would say, like, streamlining communication within 6 different departments. If that is my metric, then I need to make sure that I'm hitting those check marks. And by realizing at the end of the set deadline for these check marks that if I'm hitting all the goals, then I'm doing a great job. And I'm never afraid to ask for my leadership for their opinion. And I'll just be upfront. I say, hey, I'm not sure if I'm doing a really good job, but can you know, based off your observations and reviews of my performance, like, where do you feel I'm at this point? And my leadership will say, you're smashing it. You're doing a wonderful job. Nothing more than I can ask you to do. Then just take that. Like, if they're giving you a positive response or a positive recognition, take it. Like, don't doubt their recognition of you and say, oh, I think they're just saying because they're being nice, right? Like, no. And that's how, and I've seen it where I've seen women, I've seen younger folks where the leaders will give them a lot of encouragement and words of affirmation, but they're not taking it and they start to doubt themselves. And that's how imposter syndrome will continue to grow. So, like, receive that positive feedback and know that if someone's saying you're doing a great job, you're achieving your goals and metrics, then you are stellar.
So I agree. I will play devil's advocate for a minute. When you ask your manager, and what if they say, well, I gave you this target, but now here's a different target, or here's a different target. This has happened to me. You're like, okay, I'm hitting all these things. Oh, here's some more things to hit. Or, you could be doing more of this, or you're not, working extra hours, or you're not doing these things. That can happen too. And when that type of imposter syndrome happens, it's not you. It is not you. It's the culture that you're in at the company that you're at. And I know that's a really hard thing to say and to think about, but when you're experiencing that, that's going to lead to you having anxiety and stress and all of those things, because the bar keeps moving. Every time you hit the target keeps moving. That's not you. And you should not feel like an imposter if you're doing the things that are a part of your job.
And hopefully, like, leaders will be able to, like, define that as a stretch project, right? Like, you have your core projects and core tasks that you must do. And that's what you signed up for in your contract when you like came on to this role. And then there's stretch projects. And yes, companies will make the most out of you. And if you're a high performer, naturally they're going to make you do a million stretch projects. But that's where you have to make sure to have that communication and ask your manager, like, hey, is that considered a stretch project or is that my core project, right? And they should not beat around the bush. And if you see the toxicity that Shani mentioned, like, well, yeah, it's actually a stretch project, but now I'm going to make it so that it's your core project. That is a toxic workplace culture, and you need to identify it and know that that is not you. And then you need to call it out and be like, hey, that's great and all. And that's where you have to level set with your boss of like, I've signed up and you want me to focus on these 10 things within this amount of time, but now you want me to add these things on top of my, my main chores. I just want to let you know that in terms of my bandwidth, I'm doing my best to make sure that the core task that you assign me, that I'm going to deliver it in high quality and on time. But if you want me to take on this extra stretch project, I may have to shuffle my priorities with my core project. And then that's where I need your help to level set with me. Either I get extensions with the core projects, or that, in terms of priorities, I need your help as my manager to reprioritize things. So this is where you as the employee can feel empowered to punt the ball back at manager and let them level set with you. And again, list out the new requirements in your job.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, I really love what both of you have said, and I think it really just kind of boils down to self-esteem and confidence. Being confident in what you bring to the table, your experiences, your knowledge, your education, whatever it is that makes you you in your work environment, whatever your hiring manager or the recruiting team saw in you as a candidate. These are things that I think you should capitalize on and work, as you learn on the job, as you kind of develop new skill sets, really just kind of continue to work on that and bring that to the table whenever there's an opportunity for you to either take on a leadership position or, whatever it is. And we do have a question or a comment from one of our viewers. She said that imposter syndrome hits home when you walk into spaces where you don't see as many people who look like you.
Mm.
And I really love what former First Lady Michelle Obama said, as far as obviously with all of her experience, her education, and being the First Lady, she still would come in certain rooms and people would doubt whether or not she belongs there, even though many of those people themselves probably didn't belong. It's just maybe they had more access due to maybe exposure or money or you know um, their racial or cultural backgrounds or just whatever the case may be. So I love the fact that she, even as big as she is as a personality and as everything else she stands for, she still had those moments and has those moments. So I think that says a lot to all of us, that it's something that we are always going to be working through, and it's not something that you'll graduate from just like that. It's a work in progress. So just